What's up, guys? We'll let this build up for a minute. We're going to talk about profitability inside your home service company. See if I can get that to lighten up a little bit. So as soon as we get a few people on here, we'll get rolling. I've just been having this talk with a lot of people lately, and I think it's very important, and I think it's something we don't think about inside our businesses. Hi from Toronto. What's going on? Hey, we're going to talk about profitability, so don't jump off here. Hang on here real quick because it's going to be really important regardless of what kind of company you own. I've got numbers wrote down here, and it's something that you don't hear a lot of people talking about, based on their home service companies. And so I just want to, everybody's so focused on the gross margins of their business. Howdy, whoever just jumped on here. Everybody's so focused on the gross number. What's up, Mike? Window cleaning. Oh, perfect. That's great. So everyone's so focused on the gross numbers of their business. You always hear someone say, "Oh, my business did 200 grand this year. My business did 500,000. Did $1 million." Right? And for whatever reason, like I'm guilty of it too. Like that's kind of like our pride and joy is what the gross number of our business of what it did. But I'm being more and more convicted, and I'm having this conversation with more and more people all the time about profitability. And so I want to encourage you guys, depending on the stage of business that you're in, if you're brand new, I want you not to focus on the profit side of things right now. I want you to focus on growth and getting as many customers as possible. But if you're in year 2, 3, 4, 5, and you've kind of figured out how to get new customers and you're past that stage, it's time to start thinking about how to be profitable. And so I wrote some numbers down here just to show you guys the difference in a small margin, a small percentage difference on how that really affects your margin down the road. And I'm gonna base kind of this whole numbers thing off of just a $500,000 business, a very obtainable size company. If you're brand new, you should be able to get there within 5 years or less, okay? And it's a big enough number where you're gonna see the different margins. I wrote 3 or 4 of these down, you'll be able to see the end. So basically someone says, hey, I have a window cleaning business or I have a lawn care business, we do $500,000 a year. And at first you're like, well, it's a good business, right? But what are you actually profiting at the end of the day, okay? So for this $500,000 model I wrote, right? My home service business, we profit, depending on the year, but this year we'll profit right around 20%, okay? It's very, very common. We will actually do more than $500,000, but it's very, very common for a business with employees. 20% is pretty average. It can be 15, can be as low as 10 if you're in the millions, and it can be higher if you're smaller. So a $500,000 business with a 15% profit margin, okay? And this is assuming that the owner's taking a salary, let's just say a 50, 60,000. You're not taking a salary of 150 grand. You're taking a pretty normal salary. So this 15% margin is after all of your expenses, after your gas expenses, your vehicle, your office, your employees' payroll, the payroll for yourself, the salary that you're paying yourself. This margin is after all of that, okay? And so this 15% margin is after you've paid yourself your 50, 60 grand for the year, everything. A 15% margin on 500 grand is $75,000. So at the end of the year, you should have $75,000 sitting in your bank if you're obtaining a 15% margin and taking just a normal average salary. You're not completely decimating your business, okay? So that's 15%, you would profit 75 grand at the end of the year. Now watch what happens when you only add 5% more to your margin. You go $500,000 business to 20% margin. Now you're taking home $100,000 of profit that year, right? That's $25,000 more with just a 5% raise in your margin. So only 5% puts $25,000 at a $500,000 business in your pocket. So what does that mean? Well, maybe you raise your prices by 5%, right? And there it is, boom. Now at the end of the year, you just profited $25,000 more. Maybe you raise your prices 2.5%, and then you somehow inside your business make your employees work more efficient. You have systems in place that make things run smoother and faster, and that makes up for the other 2.5%. Well, just doing that little thing right there added $25,000 to your pocket. So you can see, I'm not saying like, hey, you have how is come everyone's currently live streaming can't grow a proper beard? It's a good question. The real question is, if you saw me in person, why can't I grow a proper mustache? Okay, I'm not Mexican, but I kind of have a Mexican mustache, and that is not, that might sound like kind of racist, but it's not at all, I promise. I got a lot of Mexican friends. So anyway, a 5% margin raise adds 25 grand in your pocket if you have a $500,000 business. It's a lot, right? So I'm not talking like, hey, you have a 10% margin and this guy has a 40% margin. Like, that's a different talk than just like, I need to raise my prices, right? But let's say you're really like growth mode, Matt. We're doing 500 grand this year, but literally almost all the money we're making, we're pouring back into the business because we want to get to $1 million next year, right? So let's say you have a 7% margin. At 500 grand a year, you're profiting 35 grand. So you can see the difference. A 25% margin, you're profiting 125,000 a year after all your salaries. So let's say you pay yourself, I don't know, 50 grand and you have a 20% margin, you're gonna make 150,000 pre-tax that year. Okay, so it's powerful. So a lot of guys who argue, hey, I wanna do a one truck or an owner operator because, you know, employees suck or whatever the case may be, and I can make $100,000 on my own. Well, that's awesome, and it's true, and you'll have some less headache, right? Real talk, how do you try to forecast profitability within a range style? I don't know, you have to ask that question a different way. It disappeared before I even finished it. And I'll do my best to answer it. So I want you guys to focus less on, hey, I want to do 300 grand, 500 grand, $1 million. And I want you to say, okay, I want to make as much money as possible. Like, at the end of the day, most of us are in business for two reasons. One, we want more freedom of our time. And two, we want more money, right? We want to be able to control how much money we make. What I see guys doing is, even the ones that aren't trying to grow rapidly, let's say they have a $500,000 business and they feel so cool because they're off the truck, right? They're doing, let's just say $80,000 a year. What's up, Josh? My name's Matt, but close. You know, let's say they're doing $500,000 a year and they feel cool because they're off the truck and they have a quote unquote systemized business like a lot of these guys are saying they do, but their margins suck, right? Let's say they have a 7% margin at $500,000 or a 10% margin. They're not making any money. So at the end of the day, we got in business because we want to make money and we want more freedom of our time. So you got to start focusing, yes, of course, to make a lot of money, you have to do a lot of money in revenue, but more importantly, you have to have really good margins, okay? And we had a wake-up call because a couple years ago, we looked at our forecast, we're like we only had 14% profit margins this year. Like, we didn't like make anything. And as you guys know, with employees, with lots of trucks on the road, with, you know, servicing a ton of houses with a bunch of customers, just kind of a lot of headaches. When focusing on growing your business first, don't focus on money. You need to focus on establishing a healthy credit line and investors. I disagree. I didn't have any investors. I didn't have any money. And now I have a successful home service company. But that's definitely an option or a way you could go, I guess. It just isn't for me. I don't like to borrow money, especially with the home service business. You don't really have to. So that's all, guys. I just want to jump on here because I'm really tired of the big talk of guys, you know, putting on these programs and, oh, my business did $180,000 a month. To turn a small business into a proper firm, you need to establish positive debt. And so, yeah, I'm tired of guys saying, oh, I did $180,000 this month. Or you know, my business did $180,000 a month, or my business did $2 million a year. But yeah, but what did it cost you to run it? Like, I bet you if we took a hard look at a lot of these people's numbers, we wouldn't be that impressed, and we would realize that they weren't actually making that much money. And so I would rather see a dude, I'm gonna point you to somebody. He actually doesn't know me, and I don't honestly know him that well, so take this for what it's worth, but DJ Carroll, I know he owns a company in Louisville called Easy Pro, I think, and he's all about this message, like profitability. Like, at the end of the day, man, we're worried about, we want to make money. Like, I don't care all that much about doing a big number. What is your cash flow ratio to current similar businesses? Yeah, Rex seems like he's either a spammer or he's looking to argue, so I'm not into that. But at the end of DJ anyway, he's all about the end of the day number, man. Like, he looked at his numbers. He said this I saw this on Keith's video. He looked at his numbers and all services and was like, crap, like, my numbers suck except for this one service. We have really good margins in this one service. So what he did is he scaled his business down and he focused on this one service. And now he's growing it big again, from what I understand, right? And so in his head, he was like, I run 5 small businesses. I might be interested in investment. So what he did was cut everything out that wasn't making him money, because he's like, listen, I'm cutting grass. That's not making any money with his model, the way he was running it. I'm doing landscaping. That's not making me as much money, as I want. And, all these things take energy, right? And so if you're going to put energy into something, then make sure that what you're putting energy into is giving you something in return. So what I'm trying to say is, if you have a business that is basically, my first business was, oh my gosh. If you, I wonder if I could block him. Give me a second here. There we go. So at the end of the day, if you're putting energy into something, I want you to be getting something out of it. I don't want you to run a $500,000 company with all the headaches with employees and customers and your phone ringing nonstop and all that crap if you're not making any money. So start focusing on the margins. I don't want to complicate this video, but start focusing on the margins. Because when you run a P&L on all your services and you really take a look at what you do, for instance, our window cleaning service. I hate window cleaning, and it's almost one of the things we do the most. And so what we're trying to do is figure out a way that not necessarily, we'll either raise our prices with window cleaning, where we'll probably weed a lot of people out that won't want to use us, or we're going to get rid of it eventually. The reason I don't like it is because the margins are tiny on it. The only reason we've kept it is because it's recurring, right? And so I'll take a little bit of a margin hit if a service is recurring, but the profitability is very, very low in window cleaning, at least for us in our area with our pricing. We're a higher priced company in the area, and we struggle to make a really good margin. And so that's a perfect example. What do I mean margins are tiny? What I mean is, at the end of the day, by the time I pay a guy or 2 guys to go out and clean windows on a house, after I pay for insurance, the truck, the equipment, the fuel, all my expenses at the end of the day, our window cleaning, we don't make that much, right? So, we have roughly a 10 to 12% margin on our window cleaning service, okay? Now we do house washing, roof cleaning, everything, gutter cleaning, stuff like that. We do really well in those. But our window cleaning margin is very small. And so at the end of the day, if we do a $100 job, we're gonna profit $10, let's just say. That easy math, because I suck at math, right? And so start focusing on margin, guys. I'm not saying get rid of the services that have lower margins than others. That's not what I'm saying. You can raise prices on services to adjust margin, all that kind of stuff. And I'm also saying don't get super greedy, especially if you're building a business with employees, because a 20% margin is honestly pretty common. My friend, my mentor, thanks for all free information you give. Oh, thanks, Alex. Appreciate it, man. My mentor, who sold his pest control business a couple years ago for $22 million, he maintained a 24% margin, doing over $12 million a year. So if you do the math, that's a lot of profit. Now, he had a lot of moving parts inside that business, right? But a 24% margin on a $12 million business is really, really good. Most home service companies that are doing over $5 million a year are typically as low as 7 to 10%. And so I think it has a little bit to do with the type of service. Pest control is a very high margin type service. You can send one guy out, so it's not labor intensive. The chemical is extremely inexpensive. You can charge people kind of a lot of money because they can't get the chemical themselves, so they don't know what kind of chemical to use. Where window cleaning, for big houses, you want to have 2 guys. That way you can get in and out of houses faster. Lawn care, kind of the same thing. You want 2 guys, so one guy can be weed whacking while the other guy's mowing. More labor intensive. So you can't get around stuff like that, but you can raise margin by raising prices and making the process better. Tree services are high margin, 15 to 25%. It's awesome. Very, very cool. Yeah, and a 25% margin is really good with employees, especially with a business of that size. I think that is very obtainable especially if you start right. I think if you've started and you've been in business for a while and your pricing screwed up and your process sucks, it's going to take a few years to kind of rebuild your model to get it where you want to be. So be patient. But you got to start somewhere. That's all. So I just wanted to jump on here to talk to you guys. Like, when you have a $500,000 business, the margin from 15% to 20% gives you an extra $25,000 a year in your pocket. Okay, it's a lot of money for 5%. So raise your prices, make your process better, Make it easier for your employees to do the job. Give them the right equipment that would make them work faster so there's less hours of payroll. All that kind of stuff is going to help it. I'll stay on here for a second and see if you guys have any questions. Other than that, I'll jump off and we'll call it a night. But hopefully this puts a little bug in the back of your head there, and you can start to think about how you can make your margin better. Because guys, I'm not saying make your margin 20% better. I'm saying make it 5, right? Like set a small goal. Help me big time. Thank you so much from Ireland. Ireland, cool. John, my wife wants to go to Ireland bad. What if you switch to doing only outside window cleaning? Well, that's something we're considering. Something that, house washing is a really good ticket for us. We love house washing. How do you price gutter cleaning? We price this by square footage of the house. We don't do anything by gutter, so we can price all over the phone. So we've thought about, possibly offering house washing with only outside windows. The thing is, that's a time killer when your guys have to go inside, they have to pull screens, or maybe they're cleaning tracks or whatever the case is. Make it mandatory. I've talked to a bigger company in Tennessee. They make it mandatory for their customers to pull screens out, or else they charge extra for that. And so, that way, just imagine you pull up to a house, boom, I'm gonna wash it. The screens are already out. I've got one guy washing the house, the other guy using a water-fed pole or doing it by hand, whatever the case is. I don't have to worry about pulling them out. I don't have to worry about putting them in. And if I do, I'm getting paid for it. I get my customers to remove all the screens. This thing's cutting off half of the thing. We miss it. I'm not sure what that said, but that's, if you have all your customers removing the screens, that's, a huge time saver for sure. Because what happens is, a lot of times, let's say, well, I'm gonna have a higher price and we'll do the screens. We'll take them all out, we'll put them all back in. Well, that's perfect. But a lot of companies aren't charging to take screens out. We're not right now, and we probably should be. Because honestly, you send a guy in to take screens out, let's just say a basic 2,500 square foot 2-story, he's gonna be in there, depending on the type of screen, a minimum of 10 minutes, but maybe even 20, right? And that's wasted time. Where if that was already done by the homeowner, that's 20 minutes of payroll you wouldn't have had to pay for. He can help the guy get the washer ready to start washing. He can get the water-fed pole out and hooked up, all of that. And then add another 10 to 20 minutes to put them back in. And that's not even saying if the screens suck and they won't come out, it takes even longer. So I don't want to get super specific on process with services, because it's just across the board regardless of what you do. But man, even a 5% margin raise, in your business, even if you do 200 grand a year, 100 grand a year, it's a lot. At the end of the day, that's a lot of money. Any other questions? Anything. If not, I'm gonna jump off this. It's crazy how fast time goes. It's already been 18 minutes on this thing. By the way, for those of you that don't know, I put it in all the links in our description, but I own a company called Service Industry Marketer. We do print marketing, Google AdWord management, Facebook ads. If you guys need anything, especially going in fall right now, we've got a lot of clients freaking killing the game. Fall is an awesome time for almost all home service businesses. There is a service basically for any home service business that they can push hard in the fall. That really falls, into right before winter. For us, that's gutter cleaning. For HVAC guys, that's, maybe furnace cleanouts, duct cleaning. Lawn care guys, that's fall cleanups. There's a lot of stuff you need to be pushing right now. November is the biggest month of the year for my company. We'll do over $100,000 just in the month of November in gutter cleaning. And so, that's our favorite month of the year. And a lot of guys, my first 2 years in business, I didn't even recognize my first year of business, so I'm learning. Cool, man. It's awesome. Hope these videos are helping. I didn't realize that fall was such a big opportunity my first 2 years in business. I had no idea. We were a window cleaning company, and we always got slow come late October, and it was getting cold. And so we're like, freak, man, we need to work a little bit longer. I guess let's add gutter cleaning. So we add gutter cleaning, and now it's our most profitable, busiest, craziest service this time of year, and we love it. So, all right, guys, if you have any questions, I will put my email in the description. I'll also put the website to our marketing company in the description. If you want to push hard, your services hard this year, we can help you with that. But work on your margins. It's important. Write them out on paper. If you don't use a CRM like the Customer Factor or Service Monster, if you have a CRM like that, you can pull a P&L and you can really figure out your margins easy. But if you're doing everything on paper, if you have all your customers in an index or your Google Calendar, whatever the case is, you can't get down to the specifics as easy and as quick. I can figure out our margins fast whenever I want, okay? I can pull it by month, I can pull it by day, I can pull it by year, it doesn't matter. I have it all here in my CRM, and it's that easy. So get a CRM, that'd be the first step if you don't have one. After that, keep track of everything in that CRM. That way you can keep close tabs on your numbers. Most guys aren't keeping close tabs on their numbers, okay? And I loved what DJ Carroll posted on Facebook the other day. He said, and I'm gonna screw it up a little bit, but he said there's a lot of 7-figure funnel businesses out there, and you can apply this to anything. There's a lot of 7-figure home service businesses, a lot of 7-figure online companies out there, but how many of those 7-figure companies take 7 figures to run? What he's saying was, how many of these big companies that are bragging about their big numbers actually are making money? Not very many of them. So I don't want that to be you. So go fix your margins, and I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.